One of the common objections I get from coaches or service providers when they're looking at financing options for their products and services is they don't necessarily feel comfortable going down this path because they wouldn't use personal loan finance for themselves. And usually it's because there's a block around finance being seen as a pathway of scarcity and something that limits people. What I typically find in these situations is the wrong side of the equation is being looked at. So instead of somebody looking at what can be created by a client having access to this money now, they're looking at how much extra it's going to cost them. So they might go, okay, well, look, if my client goes down the path of finance, it's going to cost them an extra $3,000 if they don't make any extra payments on their loan. I don't feel comfortable with my client being in that situation. What they're failing to see is that without that option being available to the client, often there is no client for them because they can't afford it. And second to that, it's the wrong side of the equation. Sure, it might cost the client an extra $3,000 over this side in interest if they don't make any extra repayments. What they're not looking at is how much the client can then generate from a profit perspective within their business or whatever it is that they're doing with them, which is going to be far greater than the extra $3,000 interest it costs over here. And because they're missing that equation, they're focusing on the wrong thing. It's like, I always like using the example of when somebody purchases a house. If you buy a house today in current market climate, actually when I did these equations, I was doing a rate of 5.9%. It was if you borrow $450,000 to buy a house at 5.9%, which now rates are probably somewhere around 7, over a 30-year loan term, the interest on that house is going to cost you an extra $490,000. That's more than your initial investment if you make no extra repayments. Nobody thinks about that. Nobody even asks that question. All they care about is how much that house is going to appreciate in that time and how much money they're going to make out of the house when they do decide to sell it. They don't think about the extra it's costing on interest, maintenance, whatever other renos they do to the place. They're just thinking about the end return on investment. When you're using personal loan finance for growth and education, it's the same thing. You need to be thinking about what is my client's long-term return on investment for this. It's not that it's costing them $3,000 over here. Often with some of the masterminds they're in, they can easily create multiple 6, sometimes 7-figure businesses within the space of a 12-month period or even a 24-month period. And for those that aren't in business, like when you start to look at for that extra $3,000 to have access to the support that they need now to enrich their relationships, to change their health, which is sometimes life-saving, I guarantee I've never spoken to a client that said that wasn't worth it. So when you're feeling a little bit funny about, is finance the right path for my client, or should I be offering this to my client? I don't feel comfortable about it. I encourage you to question what side of the equation are you looking on? Because even when we do finance for your client, we're bound by responsible lending laws to make sure they can easily afford it. So we're never going to put your client into scarcity. All we want to do is help serve your client to get them to where they want to be. And if they've got other small debts and stuff, we like to try and tidy that up for them too, so we create even more surplus budget within their existing month-to-month daily cash flow. So just a few things to consider. Finance is a really powerful way to get you from where you are to where you want to be.